Hello everyone, my name is Clay. I have several big adventures in my life because I always joke around, and my favorite thing to do is pranks. I've always loved pranks, and I love to prank my friends. I don't know why, it's just really fun for me. I'm just like that. My mom always said that I am the happiest kid she knows, and she considers it a gift. Well, I don't know, maybe on one hand it's good, but my last prank went way too far. So as I said, I love to mess around and have fun. It all started in elementary school. I already arranged all sorts of epic pranks. For example, I once called the school from a phone booth and spoke through a special voice and said that there's a dangerous object at school. Everyone went crazy. They called the police, firefighters, and an ambulance arrived. In general, we were all evacuated. And I only did it because I was not ready for an exam. It's good I was never found out, otherwise my mom would not have liked to post bail for me in the police. I also remember pranking my cousin Daisy. She just adored her kitten. And this feline always pooped on my shoes when I came to visit them. One day I yelled at the cat and the Daisy began to defend him. She called me a curse word or something like that. I got offended and decided to pull a little prank on her. Before we got to dinner, I found poop from the neighbor's dog on the street and put it in her shoes. You should have seen her reaction, but I said it was all her cat. Of course, she didn't do anything to her cat, but I was glad that she knew how I felt for once. In general, I grew up like that. I could not help myself. I like to take out anger out on people this way, but not with violence, but through humor. But, you know, the older I got, the more I noticed that my pranks were getting more and more serious and less funny. But I just noticed it too late. That year in general turned out to be a very terribly difficult year for my family. We lost our grandfather. He died due to an illness, although he could have lived. I could not come to terms with the fact that he was no longer here. Yeah, I didn't tell you how close we were, but he was a legendary pranker in his heyday. My grandfather told me once that he let rats into the dorm of our grandmother and her friends, and how my grandmother hated him for that. But they ended up falling in love and then they got married. The grandfather was proud of their marriage. The fact that the grandma learned to love his jokes and became perhaps the only one who didn't blame him for it. And when he was gone, a huge hole in my chest was formed, and sometimes it seemed to me that I was really lonely without him. I almost stopped talking to my friends. They took offense to that, but I didn't care. At the end of the first semester of high school, they invited me to the last soccer game. I was supposed to play the last game, and college scouts were there. I understood that this was an important step, but by that time, everything had gone wrong. The day before the game, we made a dinner at our house in honor of my grandfather's birthday. We gathered the entire family at our place, planned to get together to once again remember our grandfather and what he was like. I was the first to say that it was only thanks to his pranks that our family started, because our grandmother fell in love with them, everyone except for Dylan. This is my cousin. He always considered my antics stupid and said that my grandfather died because he couldn't care enough to lead a healthy lifestyle, but I always laughed it off. But now, it pissed me off. I charged at him at the table. All the food fell to the floor. We broke dishes, a vase. My mom got super angry. We turned a dinner into a showdown, and I was ashamed of it, yes. But he had no right to talk like that about our grandfather. Finally, I went outside to calm down. Dylan followed me. I thought he would apologize, but he only said that life for clowns is always sad. I wanted to punch him again for what he said. Come on, you know I'm right. Why do you think Grandpa had so few people at the funeral? Because no one respected him. Like you, a clown. No one respects you or your moronic jokes, and no one will come to your funeral when you're gone too, he said. I asked, why does he hate Grandpa so much? Why? But he left without answering my question. And at that moment, I came up with something. I suddenly wanted to prove the opposite. Then I returned home, took out a video camera, recorded a message there, cleaned the room, put myself in order, and said bye to my parents, and then left the house. I was getting ready for something important, made several calls to online practical joke shops, and made a bunch of orders to make everything look real. And then I decided to stay in for a while in my secret place. Nobody knew about it except my grandfather. He gave it to me, a tiny house in the woods on the outskirts of the city. All our greatest memories were stored there. Joke lotions, artificial legs, hands, noses, wigs, all for practical jokes and pranks. I got a disguise on and just had to wait. I spent the night there. The next morning, I drove to the house. I knew that no one could recognize me because I dressed up as a girl. I noticed a stir in the house. My mom was crying. They were calling somewhere. They were interrogating Dylan, and he, judging by his face, swore that he didn't know where I was. I agree, maybe I overdid it. But I was so angry with him that I was ready to prove to him that he was wrong. And then everything was set in motion, and there was no turning back. 5 hours after an active search, my mom found a recorded message in my room, which said that I loved him, but I could no longer live like a clown. Therefore, I ask you to make my funeral not boring, but fun, like real clowns. It was a terrible blow for my mom. I heard her scream, sitting in the street in a rented car. It was only then that I thought, what the hell have I done? After around an hour and a half, the people that I ordered came to my house. It was the coroner and the staff. They brought a coffin, flowers, and so on. Dylan was visibly nervous. At my special invitation, my friends and classmates came to our home. They all knew that it was a damn prank, and I had no idea what it might lead to my parents doing. I only wanted to play a prank on Dylan. But until the joke was completely over, I could not come into the house. In general, Dad and Mom tried to drive everyone away. They were shocked and wanted to figure everything out. I walked in amongst the rest of the crowd and pretending to be a girl, and suddenly I saw my mom's face, my father. My heart sank with pain, the horror from my recording, the coffin and the whole thing in general. And then I found Dylan sitting there crying. He cried and cursed himself for my loss and possible death. I could no longer watch all this. I sat down on a chair at a distance, covered my face with all my hands and shouted that I was a brainless idiot and a clown. Everyone turned around at my scream. And then my mom came running. She came out to me in the crowd and came to me so quickly that I did not have time to take off my wig. All the friends started talking, asking when I would give an explanation, and they realized that my family and I should just be left alone. Ugh, that was a long conversation. Dylan almost went crazy. Mom and Dad almost went crazy with grief, and I screwed up. I understood that in general, I apologized for a long time and thought that my brother would kill me for such a sight. But he suddenly asked for forgiveness for his words. Sorry, it was I who gave you this idea. I swear I loved our grandfather and I miss him too. It's just, I always envied that you had so much in common. You had fun jokes together. You had fun together. You joked. You had a lot of things. And he was never like that with me. And I was just jealous of the fact that he loved you, but not me, said Dylan. And then I understood why he spoke like that. I hugged him, and I'm glad that we talked. And now, at least we can talk like family. If you liked the video, then please leave a like and comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hello everyone, my name is Konstantin. You know, all my adult life, I was like a machine. Do you know what Groundhog Day feels like? It's when you live out the same day every single day for many years. I had lived it until one day something strange happened. I asked you treat me with understanding. I can get nervous during the story, so I hope for your understanding. I was around 18 at the time, before going off to college. My mom noticed certain anxiety in me, which was understandable because entering college takes a lot of time and effort. I thoroughly prepared for my exams, and I had to do everything to get a scholarship because I knew that my family would not be able to pay full tuition. It was very expensive for us. So when day X finally came, I got ready, got dressed, barely had any breakfast, and had no appetite. But I understood that I needed to eat. I forced myself to eat and went to the exam. Mom had ironed my new white t-shirt and trousers beforehand. Dad wished me good luck and said that it was a bad sign. You cannot wish good luck, otherwise you can frighten it away. Exhaling, I opened the doors and walked into the room. A commission was sitting in front of me. I had no idea how all this happens. I was asked a couple of questions and I answered them brilliantly. And I asked another one and immediately felt my knees tremble. I didn't know the answer and I was being attacked. I felt like I was being crushed and the feeling of nausea came to my throat. As soon as I opened my mouth to say something, I vomited. Dad's phrase, good luck, sounded in my head. I freaked out, shouted that it was bad to wish good luck, and ran out of there. Red, dirty, everyone was shocked. I did not get in, which greatly upset my parents. After this incident, I fell into severe depression. There was nothing worse than not fulfilling your hope of your parents. I closed from everyone and hardly left the room for several months and nothing helped. Mom said that I still had a chance next year, and for now I needed to sort out my mental health. She signed up me for the therapist, Mr. Andrew, and I attended his sessions a couple of times a week. One time Mr. Andrew told me not to come to his office, as usual, but to another place where he has been working for many years. It was a mental hospital on the outskirts of their city. At first, it scared me. Then I decided that if I saw some crazy people there, maybe it would make things easier for me, and I decided to go. As soon as I arrived at the place, a high gate opened in front of me. There was a beautiful area where people walked around. There were men and women, girls and boys, and there were also my peers. I didn't quite understand what they were doing, I saw a girl staring at me. She looked like she was burning me with her eyes. 2 more were walking next to her. They all looked alike. These are our triplets. Poor girls suffer from schizophrenia. They hate newbies. They think you are one of them, Mr. Andrew told me. I looked away and went into his office. We went up to the 3rd floor and continued the session. He showed me pictures and asked what I see on them. He diagnosed me with chronic depression and prescribed some medication. The doctor warned that sometimes antidepressants have the opposite effect, more precisely, a side effect. Hallucinations, frustration, I can feel nauseous, etc. I took my meds and went downstairs. I wanted to sit down, pulled out those pills and had one. I had to take them strictly by the hour, immediately. I felt my body go numb, a familiar feeling of nausea rising to my throat. Are you among us now? The girl asked. I got scared. She sat down next to me and took my hand. She noticed my reaction and asked me not to be afraid. My name is Anna, and these are my sisters, Judy and Sarah. We're triplets, she said, pointing at her sisters. The girls surrounded me. One stood opposite me, and the rest sat on both sides. I was so tense that I could not say a word. Judy calmed me down, stroked my head, and said that this was normal effect from the pills. Oddly enough, we sat and talked for a while. For some reason, it was very easy to share my feelings. I still can't forgive myself for not getting into that college. I feel guilty before my parents, and I hate myself for it. They hoped on me. Unexpectedly for myself, I began to talk about my problems. Sarah said, "It's not your fault. He shouldn't have wished you luck." I was surprised because I didn't mention it. Sarah looked me in the eyes and asked me to get up. The girls invited me for a walk. We went out in the courtyard. With no one there, I stayed silent, and they told me stories about how they lived there. Anna said that they were hospitalized a long time ago because their parents died. They were 6 years old. They were first diagnosed with depression, but this was not the case. Actually, the girls were healthy. They just had nowhere to put them, and so they stayed in the hospital where they would not run away. We walked along the yard, and then they took me inside the building, then into the basement. My phone rang. I wanted to pick up. It was Dr. Andrew, but Anna abruptly grabbed the phone and told the doctor that I was now with them and threw the phone somewhere. They took me into a ward with no one there, gave me water, and then said they liked me. I said I had to go, got up and picked up my medication. Then Sarah ran up to me and asked to sit down. I began to resist her. Then the girls forcibly put me in a chair, tied my hands, and gave me more medicine. I didn't want to take it, but they made me. I felt calm again. My head was spinning. Somehow, my phone appeared in my pocket again. Sarah took it and said that it was my mom calling. I wanted to talk to her so badly, but the girls wouldn't let me. They said that I would never see her again because they stole me. What? What do you mean you stole me? I asked, shocked. Now you have to live here among us. You are the same as we are, the girls said at the same time, and laughed loudly. Their laughter hurt my ears. I wanted to get out. I tried to free myself, but I didn't have enough strength. Then Judy slapped my face. I shouted, "Help! I was kidnapped!" But no one heard me. Time there dragged on endlessly. I was hungry, thirsty, very tired. It seemed like 3 days passed. I was still tied up amongst these girls. Somewhere far away, I heard my mother's voice and wanted to hug her. On the 4th day, I cried violently. Sarah gave me medicine again, and my head was spinning. "Why do you need me? For what?" I asked them. The girls said that they would treat me. But that was funny, wasn't it? How can they treat me when they are sick themselves? I asked for food, water, and bathroom, but they said that I was wearing a diaper, so I could use that instead. What? What? I don't wear diapers. This is nonsense. Let me get up, I shouted. "Son, it's okay. I'm here. Do you hear me? Everything will be fine," Sarah spoke suddenly in the voice of my mother. Half conscious, I raised my head and saw my mom in front of me. She stood nearby and cried. I did not understand what was happening. "Mom, help. These drugs there, I have hallucinations. I was kidnapped. I didn't pass the exam," I said abruptly, but my mom continued to cry. Dr. Judy called Sarah and Anna. "We need to give the guy a sedative. He's out of his mind again," someone said. "But what is this? They're sick. They're not doctors. How can they treat me? Mom, are you with them on this?" I asked anxiously, but my mom came up to me, and I finally saw the room. I was no longer in a chair, but lying tied on the couch in a ward with my mom and dad standing above me, and the crazy people who stole me were up to something. "Dr. Judy will take care of you, and this is Mr. Andrew's student. They're good doctors. You will be cured," my mother told me. "Son,
You lie still, and we will come soon. Good luck to you, my dad told me. Oh no, he wished me luck again. I turned my head and saw how they injected something in which I fell asleep. I was in treatment for a month. After the exam, I had a nervous breakdown, after which I admitted to the hospital. I was looked after by 3 doctors, Sarah, Judy, and Anna. They were sisters, as they assured nobody stole me. Well, who knows what the actual truth is, right? If you liked the video, then press the like button and leave us some comments. Don't forget to subscribe.